Hey everyone, welcome back to John's Watch. Today I'm taking a look at a new game called Necrophosis. This game was released on Steam on April 25th, 2025. Its trigger price is 20.79 Canadian, or regional equivalent, and is developed by Dragonis Ares and Adonis Brosteno and published by Dragonis Games. This is described as a first-person horror adventure, plunging you into a nightmarish realm teeming with grotesque forms and ominous visuals. Delve into eerie landscapes and uncover secrets in this atmospheric journey through the macabre. So a couple of things to get into right off the bat. The second you open up the store page and see the remotest hint of a screenshot, you will likely be immediately reminded of a game called Scorn, which I've obviously referenced in the title here. Both games have very, very similar visual styles. Scorn was a game that I was very, very interested in, but as my final review of it said, I thought it was an incredibly atmospheric and good-looking game, but it was not fun in the slightest to play. And I'm pleased to say that Necrophosis is actually very, very fun to play. Scorn's biggest failure for me was this really tacked on, very, very poor combat system. You actually had a weapon, a gun with very limited ammo, and the combat was just super frustrating and, like I said, felt really tacked on, very unnecessary, because you've got this beautiful world to explore, and then you always get derailed with this god-awful combat. And Necrophosis doesn't bother with combat whatsoever. This is very much just a walking sim with some very light puzzle-solving elements. But yeah, this is definitely a walking sim, which is exactly what I wanted from Scorn. I loved the idea of Scorn, but yeah, I thought the combat completely ruined the game for me. So I was very pleased when I started playing Necrophosis, and found it really was just a walking sim. The other thing I wanted to say right at the start is, obviously it's developed by just two names there. So Ares Dragonis did the 3D modeling and animations, world and creature designs, direction and story, and Adonis Brostono did gameplay and blueprint programming and additional writing. So, incredibly tiny team. And this is so good for such a small team. I really enjoyed this. It's very short. I finished it I played it all in one session and finished it start to finish in 2.3 hours. I will say, in that time, I only got 9 out of 16 achievements, so there is definitely replayability. I don't know how to get the remaining 7 achievements right now, but in the future, when there is like an all-achievement guide, yeah, you could definitely do like your first blind playthrough, finish it in 2.5 hours, and then look up the achievement guide, go through it again to get the rest of them. Yeah, you could definitely get a couple of playthroughs out of this. Like I said, the game is pretty much a walking sim with a little bit of puzzle solving. You play as just this guy, this fleshy, weird-looking fella, but you do actually have a sprint button, which is really nice because some of the landscapes are quite large, and some of them are, they would really slow you down if you couldn't sprint. And kudos to the devs for actually adding a sprint button, because I think when your game is close to the 2-hour mark, when it's very possible to finish it in less than 2 hours, there's got to be the thought to try and, drag out some of the playtime to make sure that players get past the 2-hour mark so they can't play the entire thing and then just refund it. Because obviously that is, a real risk when you make a short artsy game like this. And I do think I did find a couple of little bits of padding, honestly, that were meant to slow you down and drag out the playtime a little bit. But obviously the easiest way to drag out the playtime would be to not have a sprint button, so I was very, very thankful that there was one there. Something else I really, really liked about this game was, for all the puzzles, you have to explore the area you're in, which are sometimes quite large, and you have to basically find the item that particular puzzle needs to solve it. Sometimes you have to do kind of like a trading system, like your ultimate goal is you need this one item, But to get that, you have to trade an item to another quest person, and trade that item to another quest person. Some of the puzzles are like that. But the really, really nice thing is that anything that you can pick up or interact with has like a white glow around it. So you don't have to shove your nose into literally every corner and, you know, mash E to see if you can interact with anything you can find. It's usually pretty clear what you can actually interact with and what you need to solve the puzzles. And yeah, most of the puzzles are like pick up this one thing, take it to this other thing, which will open something and give you another thing, which you then take to like the main thing you were looking for, and that'll help you actually progress. Most of the puzzles are like that, and they're not too difficult. I did have to look up a guide probably like four or five times. I did get a little bit stuck sometimes, and the first time was just because I didn't like 100% realize what one of the mechanics was. One of the mechanics is that you can take your brain out of yourself and put it into something else to let you control things. And so one of the first things that you need to be able to do this with is, it's like this guy's in a big like spinning cannon, and I could see that like he had a, you know, an interact prompt above his head, and I just wasn't able to do anything with it. I wasn't able to properly interact with it from the ground. And I managed to get something to put behind the cannon, which I just assumed was part of the cannon. But then when I looked up a guide, I realized that the thing I'd put behind the cannon was actually a ramp that I had to use to walk up to be above the guy, and then I could put my brain in him. Sounds very, very strange, and it is very, very strange. But yeah, I thought I was not on the right track because I couldn't put my brain in him when I was like standing next to him. Apparently I just had to be above him. That was the part where I got the most stuck. And then a couple of times I just like missed something very obvious, or literally one time an item I needed was like, just I had to look slightly down and I just completely missed it because it wasn't at like eye line. Like I said, I did feel there were a couple of instances where progress felt like deliberately slowed. There's this quite short area. It's like this corridor with a couple of branching paths, and it's filled with like this red gooey stuff on the bottom, which means that you can't sprint through that. You have to walk slowly through it. But also in that corridor are like kind of zombie things, just little like blind creatures that kind of wander around, and if you bump into them or if you get too close to them, they like attack you and they send you back to the start of the corridor. It's like not a big level at all. It's a decently short corridor, but that definitely felt like it was there just to pad the time a little bit. And maybe if that was gone, like, yeah, you would get people finishing it in 2 hours. But yeah, that one just felt like unnecessarily annoying, where the rest of the game had kind of avoided things like that. Surprisingly, there's a ton of voice acting. It's a very Lovecraftian game, so there's a lot of instances of, you know, you just hear weird, like, blah, blah, blah sounds, and you get, like, the subtitles for what it means, because you can understand it. But there is quite a lot of actual voice acting, and it's all very, very good. And I was amazed that it was all voice acted and so well for, again, such a small team. Performance was fantastic for me. You know, it should be on a 5090. There weren't too many graphics options. There was DLSS, which I just put onto balanced, I think, or quality, I can't remember. I just left it as it was. Turned everything else up to ultra and didn't need to touch the settings after that. Yeah, ran fantastic for me, but to be expected on a 5090. I don't have too much more to say about this game. You know, it is a short-ish walking simulator. I did want to quickly praise, I was just scrubbing through my video footage just to see if there's anything I missed talking about. And I was amazed, like, pretty much every, like, 20-minute chunk would be, like, a completely different looking color scheme, art style, graphic style. It's really impressive how varied this is. They could have gone the Scorn route. A lot of Scorn looked the same. Like if you looked at like the first level of Scorn, then looked at like one of the last levels, all kind of looks the same. Yeah, if hopefully I've given you a nice variety of the art styles in this video, and I'll have left some out so there's some mystery. But yeah, like I could like just pick and choose random clips and you'd see like completely different visuals every clip, and I think that's really impressive. So yeah, the bottom line is, if you liked the idea of Scorn but found the combat dreadful and off-putting, and wished that it just wasn't there at all, wished that the devs did something like Soma, where they added like a peaceful mode, this might be right up your alley, honestly. It's short-ish walking simulator, you know, you can do it in 2 to 3 hours probably for a blind playthrough. But I mean, it really is. It seems a bit weird to call the visuals eye candy, because they are very disturbing and horrifying. But my god, they look so good. And yeah, if you want a really good looking, kind of horrific visual walking simulator, Necrophosis might be for you. Thank you guys very much for watching. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.